Hello, my name is Jim Jacobson. I'm the president of California Academy of Sewing Machine Repair. I've been in the industry for 30 years, and today we're going to teach you how to save money and actually service your own sewing machine. We're going to tell you the simple steps and procedures to follow so that you will be able to repair your own sewing machine. Today we're going to learn how to service the classical Singer Featherweight Model 221 sewing machine. And that's what this little beauty here is. You recognize the Featherweight by its distinguishable features, one of which it is small, very lightweight, loved by quilters, and just anyone who enjoys a beautiful, perfect stitch. Another distinguishing feature is the fold-up bed plate. Some people call it a lid, extension bed. There are all sorts of names they give it, but that's one way you can tell that you've got a Featherweight. It has a lid, and it's also lightweight. There's a light unit right here. This is a 221K, which means it's made in Great Britain, and it has a light switch here. Most Featherweights have the light switch right here. Another way you can tell a Featherweight is this little lid here swings back, and it exposes some of the upper shaft, hook drive gear, upper horizontal drive gear, part of the reverse mechanism, and a few other assemblies in there. So those are the three major distinguishing Featherweight characteristics: lightweight, fold-up bed plate, and small oval lid. Notice the shape of that lid. Small oval lid that swings open and exposes the top upper shaft right hand assembly. I hear a lot of stories about people that go out and they buy an old black Singer and they think, oh, I've got a Featherweight, I only paid $20 for it. They bring it to me or some other shop, and what do they have? Well, they have a 99K usually, or some other older sewing machine. This one also comes, when they're black, it comes in a small black box, which is basically this square. When this is folded up, it all goes in the box, and it's very small, much like the bottom of the sewing machine. And here at the park, on its yearly vacation, is the Featherweight carrying case, enjoying a nice shady spot in site number 46. This is the classical little black box, they call it. It has two latches that open and lock closed to keep people from getting the machine out when you don't want them to. And it's just a wonderful way to protect your box, to protect your sewing machine, and to keep the dust out of your sewing machine when you're not using it. There are three basic things that we're going to learn today. One is how to clean the sewing machine. That is, where's the dirt, the lint, the broken thread, the crayons, the pennies, any other type of items that kids normally like to put in sewing machine slots, like this little slot over here. Looks just like a piggy bank slot, and so does this slot right here. Well, what do you think children put in piggy bank slots and things that look like piggy bank slots? They put quarters, nickels, dimes, any kind of spare change that guys leave lying around the bedroom. And then when you try and sew, all you hear is a clunk, 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 and you think, oh, it's broken. Well, let me tell you what, today we're going to learn how to clean our own sewing machines. The second thing we'll do is learn how to oil the sewing machine and where to oil it. The third thing we're going to do is learn how to adjust the upper tension and the lower tension on the bobbin case. So let's get started. To service a sewing machine properly, we need some incredibly expensive tools. We need a lint brush. If you want to use a paint brush, new or used, that's fine. Natural bristles are fine. Imitation bristles are fine too. So that's one expensive item right there. That's going to set you back at least $1 in some places. Another item we'll need is a dental pick. Again, these are very expensive. At a flea market, they'll cost you at least $1.50, and at the dentist, it's even less than that. They'll actually give them to you free. So just ask your dentist for that. Pair of tweezers. This is about a 6-inch set here. If you want to use them a little smaller, that's fine. You want a high quality set though, because sometimes when we're picking thread out of different places on the sewing machine, really got to get a good grip on that thread. A cheaper pair of tweezers that's really flimsy and bends easily and doesn't have a good grab here at the tip, we'll let go of the thread that we're trying to yank out of wherever it's caught. Another tool we'll use to service a sewing machine, standard size screwdriver. That's about a 9-inch screwdriver. Some sewing machines require a Phillips head screwdriver, whereas the standard screwdriver is also called a blade screwdriver. And then two other things that we will use. This is one of my favorite oiling mechanisms. You can get a number of these tools from our website on sewingmachinerepair.com. This oiler has a little brass spout that pushes all the way down and has a screw in top that keeps it from leaking when you're storing it. But when you want to oil small places that are hard to get to, like sewing machines have, you pull the spout all the way up and then you can just get to the different oil spots on there. And the last item we'll use to service a sewing machine will be a tube of grease. This is a Singer brand. It's excellent quality. As long as the grease has a major sewing machine manufacturer name on it, as well as the oil that you buy for your sewing machine, you're okay. I recommend that any oil and or grease that you use will have the word FAF on it, the word white, Singer, Riccar, Elna, Bernina, Viking. I could go on and on, but a major manufacturer of sewing machines is the name you want to look for on these items. We don't want to put Crisco in a sewing machine. We don't want to put Mazola margarine in a sewing machine, and people do it. Believe me, I've seen it more than once. We don't want to put rolls of $100 bills in sewing machines. I've seen that too. So there's all kinds of stuff that goes in a sewing machine, but this is the stuff that you're supposed to use, and these are the two items that you put in the sewing machine, and preferably that's about it. So let's start the service process. And remember what was number one of the three things that we're going to do today on the Singer Featherweight? That's right, cleaning. We're going to look for dirt, gunk. So to kick it up a notch and find this dirt and gunk, you already know what we're going to do probably. First, we're going to take the needle out just to protect ourselves and others, especially little kids who love to help us, and we'll set that aside. Next, we're going to take the needle plate off. Most sewing machines have 1 or 2 screws in them. Unloosen and remove each screw, and then the needle plate will lift right off. If you're a little apprehensive, you're not sure if you want to do this process, you usually don't have to, but I would still recommend it. Lift the presser foot arm up. Now the presser foot comes up to where we can loosen the screw and just take the presser foot off and set it out of the way. Finally, we will take the needle plate off. I'm just going to pick it up in the back here. On a featherweight, if this is up on an angle, it'll be a little harder to get the needle plate off. You can do it, but it's better just to take it off that way. So we're going to look for lint under the needle plate first. Aha! I'm not sure if you'll be able to see this, but I'm going to take my tweezers and right down in here, can you see that? There's a lot of lint down there. So I'm just going to remove that. Sometimes I pile it up in front of a machine to show customers, and every once in a while they'll say, "Where'd all that come from? How could all that get in my machine? I have it serviced every year." But it does, it just builds up. It's residue from fabric, from the thread going through the eye of the needle, and sometimes just from the air, especially if people sew more than 4 or 5 hours a day. Then in between these 2 springs that are held on by 2 screws here, between the base or housing and the springs, you run your dental pick. If you don't have a dental pick, you can use a needle, an old sewing machine needle, and just pick that lint out of there. It'll be on both sides. So this is where we start cleaning first. And remember, if you don't want to, or you're a little apprehensive about removing the needle plate, just leave it on there. What you can do is then come under here and get your Get your lint brush all up in here, both directions, and don't be afraid to bend these bristles. That's not going to hurt a brush at all. You want to get as far up under there as you can like that, especially if that needle plate's on. And then you can blow with your mouth a little bit, use some canned air if you want to. You can buy that at most fabric stores, sewing machine stores have that. Normally used on serger, overlock machines, but they're also excellent on machines like this when someone doesn't want to take all the parts off, but they want to get most of the dirt and the lint out. So those are the two ways to do it. Take off the needle plate, or come under here with the lint brush and get as much as you can out. Now I'm going to show you something else while we've got this off. Back to one of our major tools, the tweezers. I'm going to reach down here and show you just some of the gunk. Can you see that? That's just a collection of lint, thread, grease, oil, and then there's a little bit right here. And if you hear any background noise here in the park, well, it's just families getting ready for the Easter holidays. So they're out here with their kids just having a good time riding bikes, and sometimes the kids want to crawl through the poison oak. And of course the parents aren't all for that, so they'll raise their voices once in a while. But so we finished the cleaning under here. Now we're going to go ahead and put this back on. But to do this on a featherweight, take the bobbin case out. You notice this little toe right here? That needs to be almost at 12 o'clock. In other words, almost straight up, just a hair to the back. And what that little toe is going to do, it's going to find its way right into that slot. So we set it about 12 o'clock. Then we're going to drop the needle plate on, push it down, tip the bed plate up. Now I'm going to turn the hand wheel a little bit back and forth, and we're going to make sure we got that in the right spot. Backwards, counterclockwise, forwards, clockwise, counterclockwise, and you notice the toe is staying right there in the notch that it belongs in. So now we'll go ahead and tighten the two screws down because that's where it's supposed to be. If you don't do that, or if you forget to do that and you start sewing, you'll hit the needle right away and or break your thread. So if it doesn't work right when you put that needle plate back on the featherweight, that's the only thing you did wrong. Don't panic. Now to proceed with the cleaning, we're going to go to the top cover plate, loosen this screw here just a little bit. We don't have to remove it, just open it up. Main thing we're doing here in your servicing at home is to just look at the areas. We're looking for something that doesn't belong there. Again, a coin, a crayon, anything strange. And the oiling spots on this we'll get to in a minute. And the gear that we'll be greasing will be this one right here. But right now we're just looking, does it need cleaning? This is one of the cleanest ones I've ever seen. It's obvious, well, to me it's obvious that this machine has been serviced recently. So, but we took a visual look in there and made sure there were no foreign objects in there. That's what we were doing that for. Now I'll tighten that screw down a little bit so we don't lose it. And now this is a very important area here. It's called the face plate. This is what's called a striated face plate, as opposed to the older Sangers pre-World War primarily. That would be, they would have beautiful scroll curves on here of floral patterns. So this is one of the newer featherweights. This one is actually 1948. So we remove the face plate. And again, first we're just getting a visual image of what's going on in here. It looks very clean. We don't see any lint or thread in there. If we did, what we would do is take the lint brush, shove it in here as far as you can get it, brushing like that. No, there came a little bit of lint. And then when you do that, what I do is I hold my hand over here, and then I blow right down in this opening, about a ½ inch opening right here. I blow in there, and then the lint and dust comes out here. So that's what we would do if it was dirty. Then, after you've done that once with the lint brush, the cleaning, turn the hand wheel around. If it was in the top position, if the take-up lever was in the top position here, well, turn it so it's in the lowest position. Then do the same thing, go in there, because then that will give you a different direction to hit that lint, and you'll get it all then. There was actually just a little bit in there too. Now, even though we're still cleaning, I'm going to leave the faceplate off for right now, and we're going to go to the bottom of the machine. So I'm going to lift the lid up. And again, take the lint brush. There's always a little bit of lint right up here. Now, when you take your machine in to get it serviced, which you should do once a year, Featherweight or any other type of household sewing machine, we're not charging you to do this, but we are charging you to look in here. Sometimes you have to disassemble this to get thread out of there, which causes a thread lock. So machines do need to be serviced once a year, whether they're working well or not. Prevention is always cheaper than repair. How many times have we heard that? Well, in sewing machine industry, it is true. Prevention, once a year, basic service is going to save us money in the long run if we do that. So, but down here is a little more important to clean the lint out of this area. And then when we get around the hook, the race assembly, the bobbin case basket, everything that holds the bobbin case together and actually locks the stitches, the two threads together to make the stitch, this is an important area that needs to be cleaned. Now watch as the lint brush, I'm going to bend the lint brush. I'll do it up here, but it's like that. And when I bend it, those fibers go under back here as far as they can go. So I'm bending it and getting it like that because we want to get everything we can possibly get out of there. And then after we do that, I just get down here and I give a few puffs again, and the lint just comes right off on the table. Again, if you want to use the canned air, that's fine, go ahead and do that. But I recommend you don't get too close because there is a possibility you could damage paint with some of that high pressure air. And I don't want to take any chances on a machine of this quality and value. And another thing you'll notice in here, and this is where we get into the tweezers, I don't see anything here, but very often, especially on the featherweights, you'll see a little piece of thread hanging out here, maybe a little piece over here, and as the hand wheel is turned around, that piece of thread will often just go right around with that. Turn it the other direction, and sometimes you may see a little bit more thread. Get your tweezers, grab that thread, pull tightly with one hand, holding onto the thread with the tweezers, and with the other hand you're actually rocking the hook back and forth, rocking the hand wheel back and forth. So with the tweezers we're holding on to any thread we see here, putting a little bit of tension on that thread as we're turning the hand wheel one direction or the other, and usually as you're doing that, you'll be able to pull that little piece of thread out, and it's usually only 1 or 2 inches long at the very most. Sometimes it's only ½ an inch long. So it's important to inspect that, get all the thread out that we can. Now we're going to look at the bottom. This is the last major area that we want to check in the cleaning process of the 3 items that we're checking today. Cleaning, what was number 2 we're going to do in a minute? That's right, oiling. And number 3 was? Yes, setting the tension, bobbin case as well as upper tension. Now if the bottom plate doesn't want to come off, and this one's a little tight, just work it with a screwdriver and it'll come off. Now this is where sometimes you may find money. I'm serious. In 30 years we've only found it twice, but one time we found a wad of bills in here. It was over $100, and another time there were some 5s, or no, there were some about 6 20s, I think. They just had them crammed in here. They were hidden. I guess they didn't have a freezer in their refrigerator or something else to hide their money in, so they stuck it in the sewing machine. So you never know what you're going to get when you buy a sewing machine, especially an older one from a garage sale or flea market. So anyway, cleaning on the bottom, we just removed that little round nut, lock nut from the bottom, took that off, pulled the bottom off. Now this is a key thing to inspect. It's usually pretty dirty on the featherweights just because they've been around a long time, since 1938 or 1934 actually. So see, there's some lint here. I'm going to take that off the table and just kind of brush that off real quick. And there's a little bit of grease someone dabbed here, but this is really a pretty clean bottom. But what we look for is broken needles, again, buttons, crayons, objects that don't belong here, that when people have stuck them in the top, they will fall down through a port over here or an opening, and they will land right here. So this is a catch plate to prevent oil from dropping on your floor, to prevent needles from dropping on your floor, especially if you have a carpet. Ouch. So it's a really good item to have, the bottom of the sewing machine. So I'm going to wipe that off and set that aside. This is the main tool, again, that we're going to use. Not expensive, but incredibly important. I'm going to go up here, dust back and forth up here, blow a little bit, go all in. Any place you can get this little brush in you want to go. A lot of the old Featherweights will have a a lead housing over the wire here. This particular one doesn't. Just so you know, that's lead. I don't even brush the lead off. It's usually got white corrosion on it. So we kind of bypass that area very lightly, just only because I've been doing this 30 years. I'm around lead once in a while, so just a note that that is a lead housing. So keep brushing anywhere you see a little lint like this, and there's almost never anything on Featherweights. There's a little more grease there I'm going to throw away. So that's about it. Then blow in there with your air or your breath if you want to, and get anything that's left over. I actually use a vacuum, and as I'm dusting or cleaning with the lint brush like this is the end of my vacuum cleaner hose, the wand, and I'm running the vacuum sucking as I brush like that. So I'm brushing and the vacuum is on, sucking up all the lint so it doesn't get all over your house. Some machines have a whole lot of stuff in there. The final area we want to check on the bottom of the machine when it comes to cleaning, and this is the most important area on almost all machines, but especially the Sanger 221 Featherweights, is this little square opening right here. That gets us down into the working part of the sewing machine, which is called a hook mechanism. The point of the hook right now is right here. That's what grabs the needle or spool thread and pulls it around the bobbin case thread and actually ties the two threads together and makes the lock stitch, it's called, or most people call it just the stitch. So that's where all the work is getting done. Run the lint brush down in that opening, and again, don't be easy with it. There's not a thing you're going to hurt down there. Ouch! Just kidding. Turn the hand wheel about halfway around and run that down that hole again. Then blow in there, get your canned air, get it all cleaned out. Finally, as you look in there, you're looking again for small pieces of thread. Usually all you'll see is maybe a quarter, half an inch of thread. But if you pick it out, grab the thread with the tweezers. As you pick it out and turn the hand wheel left or right, you'll notice that one direction that you're turning the hand wheel, either clockwise or counterclockwise, one of those directions will allow that thread to come out a little bit more as you turn it, and you'll actually get all that thread out of there. So tweezers, extremely important. What the thread does, sometimes it will lock the machine up so that it won't sew. You can't even turn the hand wheel around, and I'll give you a key to that in a minute. So we've done the cleaning. One thing that frustrates a lot of people when they're sewing on sewing machines, and that includes Featherweights, is they will get a thread lock. And what a thread lock is nothing more than a piece of thread caught right down in the race assembly. And it freezes the whole machine up so that nothing moves. Sometimes you can actually repair that yourself, and I'll show you a simple way to do that. And again, don't take any tools to this. Home service should not involve tools except one screwdriver to maybe take off a couple of screws, and that's it. Needle plate screws, side plate screws if it has screws here, and if your machine is has a full top with one or two screws, then you can take those off. But that's all you want to use screwdrivers for. So if you get a thread lock, this is the symptom: it won't turn. The hand wheel will not turn backwards or forwards, or if it does, it only goes a little bit. What you can do with that thread lock, two things. Hold the hand wheel with one hand and the stop motion knob, some people call it the nut, clutch, different terms, but it's basically a stop motion knob, and turn them both clockwise. With one hand, turn the hand wheel clockwise, and with the other hand, and this is the important part, grab the stop motion knob and turn it the same time with the hand wheel. So we're using two hands, one hand to turn the hand wheel clockwise, the other hand at the same time turning the stop motion knob clockwise. So we do that, and it's going to be real hard. In most cases, what you'll hear is a click or a snap. And what that is, it's not metal breaking, because you're not going to break anything on this machine. If you do, send it to me and I'll take care of it. But it's a piece of thread that's actually snapping, and that's what you're hearing, that you think, oh, what did I do? You didn't do anything, don't worry. Sometimes you can't break the thread, but that's one little trick that you can try. And if you don't feel comfortable doing that, don't do it. And please, don't let anyone, oh, here, I'll help you get some pressure. Don't let anyone get a big old pair of channel locks or pliers and put on this stop motion knob. You're going to scratch it, and or then you will break something. But with your hands, you're not going to break anything. Oh, the last place you can clean, and this really doesn't hurt much, is under the motor and the motor pulley. Take the lint brush, go in under here, clean it out, blow it off a little bit, and you're through with that. Now here's one thing that we've got here, and I'll show you how we use the tweezers. This is the motor pulley. This is the last part of cleaning that we will do. See that piece of thread or whatever it is? I'm going to grab the tweezers, wrap the thread around it a couple of times. Now I'm going to turn the hand wheel. Well, it broke off that time. I see thread down there, and I want to get that thread off, so I'm going to take my small screwdriver. If you don't want to do this, don't worry. Whatever you do, don't get your hands under here, because as you put pressure on that screwdriver, and I've done it about once every 4 years, and there you can see a hole right there, or I can see it, where I poked the screwdriver into my finger because I was pushing down so hard. So be careful, especially a brand new screwdriver is real sharp. I'm going to try and loosen that set screw, and I can't with that screwdriver. So I'm going to try one more, and if this doesn't do it, we could use a dental pick and play with it all day, but we don't want to do that. So I'm going to get a little more pressure. Okay, I loosened the screw. Now I'm going to pull that pulley off. I'll pry it off here with a screwdriver. You're not going to hurt a thing. Try and not get it on the belt. And there's the pulley. Now we get the expensive tools again that a sewing machine repairman needs to save up years and years to buy, and then he gets it free at his dentist, the dental pick. Look at all that. What this will do is it will cause the machine to run slow. It will be labored when it runs. It won't run real fast and smooth and quiet like it's supposed to. So we just pick that thread out. Now this is actually, looks like buttonhole twist thread or something. I don't know what it is. It's almost like a rubber band. That's probably been in there for about 20 years, it looks like. So now we just put that motor pulley back on there, and the screw goes to the outside. There is a flat spot on the motor shaft. The screw lines up on the flat shaft, so the screw will go right here. Then you have to kind of pull that belt tight, get it back in there. Push it all the way in to where it stops, and then pull it out about the width of a dime. That's all. And folks, sewing machine repair in the home, your own basic home service, it's not rocket science. It's simple. It's easy. You can do it. How much did you pay the last time you took your sewing machine in to be repaired? Probably at least $35, $45, $55. Some places now are charging up to $80 and $90 just to do what we're doing right now. So, we got that done. The cleaning is all done on this machine. So now we will go to step 2, and that's the oiling. Why should you oil a sewing machine? Because most of the parts on a sewing machine, especially the older ones like this, are metal parts. Metal produces heat, friction, wear. So the reason we use it is to help the machine run quieter and last longer. So to oil a sewing machine properly, the Featherweight, we grab our oil. Now this is mineral oil. It's a high quality mineral oil. It's not baby oil. It's sewing machine oil. And there again, you can buy this either through our website, sewingmachinerepair.com, or through any and most all of your sewing machine and or vacuum repair shops. They sell oil in different containers, but it hopefully will have the label of a major sewing machine manufacturer on it. I recommend that when at all possible. So the oiling spot's on the top of the Sanger Featherweight. You can just follow me here. There's one hole here, and I'm recommending 1 drop of oil in each hole after every 8 hours of use. That's maximum 1 drop. If you want to go 1 drop a year, the machine's not going to explode in 20 years. Sewing machines are incredibly well made, especially these little beauties. 1 drop of oil or less. Right here on that cam, 1 drop. There's a hole right here in that area, and then we will grease it right here on this gear. Just put a little bit of grease every quarter turn. Every quarter turn goes that little bit of grease, constantly kicking it up a notch here. Turn the hand wheel around 2 or 3 times. Now we're ready to close that lid. Tighten it up snug. That's all it takes. Finish oiling the top of the Featherweight. There's an oil hole here. 1 drop, an oil hole here. 1 drop, a hole here. Not really an oil hole, but do put a drop in down there. And I'm holding the oiler on the side. Does it matter? I just like to hold it on the side. I'm going to turn the machine around this time, show you something that most people don't know. Whoa, look what I found. An oil hole there, 1 drop, and its twin brother down below right there, another drop. Look at that. It's important to get those 2 shots. Now some people ask, should I oil the Featherweight motor? Technically, the answer is no. That's a grease hole. And on the other end of the motor is another grease hole. Just use the regular Sanger lubricant. Hold it on there, squeeze it a couple times. You'll know when oil gets in there. You'll actually feel the grease going out of the tube. But don't oil those holes. Have I in the past? Absolutely. But again, I'm a technician of 30 years, and I know better than to put too much oil anywhere on any motor, because capillary action, gravity, just all that oozing of the oil like it does when you put a drop of oil in a paper bag or a napkin, it just kind of seeps everywhere. We don't want that oil seeping around a motor. So it's real important, basically, to not oil your motor. Use grease. One other part, really not on the top as much as it is the front, is the bobbin winder. Right here is a little hole. Now there we want about 1/4 of a drop of oil, relatively speaking. On the top is the bobbin winder. It's more in the front, on the top right there. Little tiny hole right here in the short arm of the bobbin winder. Just get 1 drop of oil in there or less, and that's all we want. Roll it around a few times like that. If the bobbin winder doesn't turn quickly, you may need to get a needle or a dental pick, and often there will be a little piece of thread wrapped right in here where the silver meets the black arm. Work on that thread, gently pull it out, and it's what they call teasing. Hair parlors, barbers, tease that thread, gently pulling it up as you roll the bobbin winder forward or backwards. And in one of those 2 directions, you'll be able to pull that thread all the way out, and then your bobbin winder will turn nice and freely. Now we'll oil the side. Not much to oil over here, and again, 1 drop or less is fine. Even though we oiled in this hole on top here once, let's give it 1 drop right here where the housing, this piece here, meets the top of the needle bar. A drop there, a drop right here, the top of this silver arm. There's a little hole there. And there'll be another drop that goes right in the, I don't know if you can see this 1.5 inch connecting rod here. Right there, just oil that. Or if you're not sure, oil right behind the bottom of this silver arm. One drop, and it'll find its way. Right behind the needle bar and right above the needle bar timing set screw is a hole in the bottom of this black arm, the connecting rod. Put one drop in that hole right there. And then finally, a couple more spots. Watch the take-up, or the presser foot lifter arm shaft move as I lift the presser foot arm up and down. See where that movement is there? Two pieces of metal together, touching together as they move. One drop there, one drop right here at the bottom. See where this silver presser foot bar goes up and down in the housing. Put a drop there. You don't really need a drop there, but if you're just really into using oil, put a little bit there. And then the final spot, the bottom of the needle bar, I'll move it around a little so we can see it. Right here where the silver needle bar goes up and down in the black housing, one drop right there at the bottom. I don't like to oil down here on either one of these bars, and the reason is if you just happen to get a little too much oil and you start sewing your daughter's wedding dress and it's white, probably, possibly, you're going to get some oil here. Look at this. I don't think we want that black oily carbon look on a wedding dress, because believe it or not, that is almost impossible to get out. So try and not over oil either one of these bars, and in general this whole area up here. And people ask me all the time, is it okay to use a spray lubricant like WD-40 or any of the other types? And I say, well, sure it is, but if you do, protect the paint, try and not get any on the paint. If you do, use a cotton rag, 100% cotton, so it doesn't scratch anything. And then a real quick spray, just a tss, and that's it, over that whole area, just a quick short motion, tss, and you're done with oiling that. So that's all we need to do there on the needle bar area. So let's put the faceplate back on. We're going to guide the take-up lever through the slot. Remember, you can do this. I have confidence. Put the screw back on, and just use the pressure that you can get with 2 fingers. It doesn't have to be real tight, doesn't want to be real loose. Just put that on there. Finally, we're going to oil the bottom, and then we'll be through with the oiling process. Now, on the bottom of the machine, again, using 1 drop of oil or less, there are 3 main shafts that we're going to oil. Well, actually 4. One's a very short one, but it's still a shaft. The lower feed shaft, and there's a vertical shaft here, but I'm talking horizontal on the 4. Lower feed shaft, hook shaft or bottom horizontal shaft, another vertical shaft here, and then the the forward backward feed dog shaft. And then behind this shaft, don't know if we can pick it up. Yeah, I do. We can pick it up because we can leap tall buildings in a single bound or 2 here at California Academy. See that lower shaft right there? Let's start with that. So I took the bottom off of the machine. I saw that short short shaft. 1 drop of oil on each end of that short shaft. Bingo, bingo. The long shaft where the black meets the silver, 1 drop. The other side where the silver housing meets the black shaft, 1 drop. And here, 1 drop on each side of that little arm. Now here's the part that's hard to see, but it's there. See this silver housing part here where the black set screw is? Right up here where that oiler is pointing, I'll go behind the wire, there's a hole. It's an oil hole. Kick it up a notch. 1 drop in that hole. Go to the other side of this shaft. There it is, another oil hole. Look at that. 1 drop or less. Now, there's a brass bushing right here. And you see the silver part here? Balance weight, 1 drop of oil between the where the silver meets the brass. Back over here on the other side, we did that automatically when we stuck the oiler nozzle into the hole. So we did 2 brass shafts, basically left and right. Now on the left side behind the hook, let's go right down in the opening where the silver meets the brass, and it's kind of a gold color. 1 drop right there. The Singer Featherweight sewing machine is so incredible. You can use this machine for 40, 50 years and never oil it once, and it will still sew perfect. Maybe a little noise, sound like a thrashing machine, but Singer's made some mighty fine machines, and this is one of the best. Now, a couple more oil spots and we're through with the oiling. Right here, there's a silver arm. Goes up to the feed teeth shaft. We want to put 1 drop at the upper end of that arm where it meets the black. 1 drop where it meets, where the silver and the black meets here. 1 drop where the silver meets the black shaft here. Right here where the black meets the silver, 1 drop. And then here's a vertical shaft connecting rod right here. 1 drop or less on each end of that. That finishes the entire oiling process on a Singer Featherweight. But you'll notice we have some metal gears here. The lower hook drive gear. So we're going to put toothpaste? I don't think so. Mazola margarine? No. How about Crisco? It's less fattening, I hear. Now let's just use Singer lubricant. So again, a drop. This one's not open, but a drop there, quarter turn, another drop of grease, quarter turn, another drop of grease, quarter turn, another drop of grease. Don't worry about getting every tooth. Relax. Enjoy life. As those little gears do their thing, meshing and going around together and around and around and around, they're very happy. They're spreading the oil around. They're sharing it with each other. Yeah, we've been in the sun too long today, but so that completes the oiling process of the sewing machine. Now I'm going to go ahead and put the bottom back on. Doesn't have to be on tight. Just whatever you can do with your fingers is fine. If you need to take a pair of pliers on there to get it off, because sometimes they haven't been off in 40 years, go ahead and put a pair of pliers on there, but be careful not to scratch the black paint on the bottom. And just for interest, that's a hole where you can access the bottom motor brush. We won't get into that here. I really don't want to get you into doing electrical stuff at home. And the other interesting part in the Featherweight is, and right here stamped is the serial number of this sewing machine. It begins with 2 letters, the letter E and then the letter H, and then 6 more digits. That tells us when the machine was made, where it was made. So it's interesting information. This machine was made in 1948 and it was made in Great Britain. And if you'll notice here, right here it actually says made in Great Britain. So this is the Singer Featherweight. Now the third and final thing I'm going to show you how to do is how to actually adjust your own tension. Both the upper tension as well as the bottom bobbin case tension. First let's take a look at the bottom tension. On the bobbin case you'll notice 2 set screws. What I call a mounting screw, and then more importantly, close to the notch where you guide the thread under the spring, close to that notch is the tension adjustment screw. And if you have your original book or a copy of a original Singer Featherweight book, and many other sewing machines for that matter, it actually explains in a different manner, and for some people it's better and clearer than the manner I'm going to teach you today. But before we check the adjustment on the bobbin case screw, we want to do a little bit of inspection of the bobbin case. Number one, is there a little screw right there? Here there is. That's a lock screw that keeps the bobbin case from disassembling and a little spring from jumping out about 20 feet in the air that you'll never see again. Unless you have a lot of patience and a magnet about 36 inches wide like I have done, crawling all over the floor finding that little screw and or spring. So if that screw isn't there, either go to your sewing machine shop, your local sewing machine store, and get a new bobbin case, or they may have a screw from an old bobbin case lying around. That screw needs to be in there because these are very expensive bobbin cases. They're as much as $100 now in some states in the country just for this bobbin case. So make sure the parts are there. The other thing you want to do on the inside here is take a screwdriver, and this one's very clean, but very often as you go around the edge with a screwdriver, what you're going to find is more lint, a little bit of buildup in there, and you want to get all that out and then blow it off like that. Clean it out on the inside. Then finally take the dental pick or a needle, and as you look right in this notch here, almost you'll actually see sometimes a piece of thread down here. You want to get your dental pick or your needle and pick that thread out of there, get your tweezers, clean it out. Here's your tension spring on the bobbin case. You can often run a size 9 needle all the way under that like I'm doing and work the thread out that builds up under there, or lint. That's a major cause of tension problems. And I don't recommend you take either one of those screws out to do this process because they're incredibly easy to lose. And we sell these bobbin cases new, and we also sell genuine used Singer Simanco bobbin cases. So you can contact us through our website there for any of your parts needs there. To adjust the tension, place the bobbin in. Before we place the bobbin in, I see this all the time and it's not good because it causes problems. Do not run the spool thread through the bobbin like this, through the edge of that bobbin, and wrap it around the hole. We never want a thread wrapped around either edge of the bobbin. If you're going to wind a bobbin, the best way to do it is go ahead and put it on your machine from the spool. If you're going to sew over existing thread on your bobbin, or wind over existing thread on your bobbin, get the tail in there. And notice what I'm doing with the pink thread that I'm getting ready to sew with. I pinch it under my thumb, right on the edge of the bobbin, and then I wrap the pink thread around itself 4 or 5 times. And then as I start winding the bobbin, I will go ahead and help pull those little tails down inside the bobbin of the thread by moving the thread left and right as I'm running the machine and winding the bobbin, and it gets rid of that little tail, and then we have a nice clean finish on the edge so that there's no thread wrapped around the edge of that bobbin case. Because if there is a little piece of thread around the edge of the bobbin rather, every time it goes around and touches any part on the inside of the bobbin case, it can actually make it break thread, get the tension out of adjustment, and possibly even skip stitches. So be sure that the bobbin is wound correctly. Drop the bobbin in, pull the thread under the check spring between the 2 little toes, just little bends kind of like fangs on a snake that go in the bobbin case hole where the thread comes out, and then it's locked in so it doesn't come out. If you have the featherweight tension the bobbin case set screw tension set properly, you can hold that, and when you shake it like that, it doesn't go down. Pretty much if you want to tie a fishing weight on there, anywhere around 1 ounce to 1.5 ounces fishing weight, holding it like this so that we're not putting pressure on the tension spring, tie the fishing weight, tie 1.5 ounce fishing weight on there, and it should barely pull it down when you shake it, just barely. But anywhere between 1 ounce and 1.5 ounces. If you don't know, you just want a little bit of tension on there. So that's how to properly set the bobbin case tension. We don't even have to put that back in there for now. Now let's go to the upper tension. Properly setting the upper tension, first of all, be sure it's threaded correctly. You have 2 tension discs right back here, and they're like bent plates that face one another, kind of like that. Rather than parallel, they're bent right on the circular edge of both the tension discs. The thread needs to go between the discs, not over here and not over here. So make sure you have the threads between the 2 tension discs. And notice I'm holding the thread spool so it doesn't turn. Then I'm going to pull the thread up here, and watch this check spring as the thread comes up and comes right around this little toe right here. A lot of people miss this, and that's why they have real poor tension on the bottom of their fabric. Hold the spool so it doesn't turn. Oh, and incidentally, I'm sorry, the presser foot needs to be in the up position. So between the two tension discs, hold the spool so it doesn't turn, and I'm going to pull the thread over here to about 2 o'clock position real tight, and watch that thread. You may even hear it go snap right there. It automatically came around the toe and locked into the little horseshoe slot right there. So now as we're sewing and the take-up lever is pulling the thread up and down, look what that little check spring is doing. It's helping pull the bottom or bobbin case thread up into the middle of the material as you sew. So now we'll get both threads, this thread here behind the horizontal bar, the thread guide, and the other thread behind that. Take up lever in the highest position, thread this from right to the left. People miss this thread guide right here. You notice how I'm holding the thread tight, pulling it toward me. There's one more thread guide right here, kind of from left to right, and there's one more right here, left to right. To properly put a sewing machine needle in a Sanger Featherweight, the flat side of the fat end of the needle goes to the left. So, making sure we've got the needle all the way up with the flat side to the left, we tighten the set screw and the needle is in. Then this is another key thing that people do wrong, and they think their sewing machine is broken, especially on featherweights. The needle threads from the right to the left. So that's very important. In other words, it threads from the inside to the outside, or from right to the left. So that's the way you thread the needle, from here, that direction. You'd be surprised how many people put the needle in wrong, and or they thread it the wrong direction. So just remember, flat side to the left, the needle threads toward the left. Then we'll pick up the bottom thread. Oh, the bottom thread isn't in there. No wonder we won't pick it up. Then we'll put the bobbin case in. Now we'll pick up that bottom thread, and we're actually ready to sew. Now the final thing we'll say about the featherweight on setting the tension is, normally it should be set on number 4. If it's over here on 5 and 6 and it's sewing nice, the bottom stitch looks identical to the bottom stitch, or the top stitch looks identical to the bottom stitch, leave it on 6, that's fine. If it doesn't, turn it down 1 or 2 numbers. Look at the top, look at the bottom of the fabric, and make sure that the top stitch looks just like the bottom. If you're seeing little bumps, which is the classic thing here on a featherweight, on most machines for that matter, little tiny bumps or a straight thread on the bottom, the upper tension needs to be on the next largest number. So if it's on 5 and you've got bumps or little tiny or little straight thread on the bottom, turn it up 1 more number, and that usually takes care of it. And don't be afraid to turn it up 2 or 3 or 4 numbers, and try that. If turning it to a larger number doesn't work, you have it threaded wrong right here 9 times out of 10. After 30 years, so many people misthread a featherweight, even people that have used it for 30 years or longer. They will get in a hurry. I don't really know what all causes it, but the thread will go behind the tension discs up here, or it will go right here between the black and the silver. Those are the 2 classic errors on threading it. And what does it look like if we were to thread it and sew like that, sew on it like that right now? You'd have spaghetti, great big old loops on the bottom. Have you ever sewn and looked at that on your material and just been embarrassed or angry? Don't blame the sewing machine repair person, please. Get out your book, check the threading, make sure that it's threaded right in there. So that's how you adjust the upper tension, is to just make sure that you don't be afraid to turn it to a lower number or a larger number, sew a full 5 or 6 inches, turn it over, and you're just looking for that look where the bottom looks the same as the top. You are not going to hurt a thing. After all, you're not going to make it worse if it's not sewing. So that's how to service and maintain your Sanger sewing machine, your classic 221 featherweight. You'll get many, many years of pleasure out of doing the job right the first time. Thank you.